What is up, folks? This is Addy. This is the Epstein files. A few updates going on here. Wanted to go into Prince Andrew before talking a bit deeper about Ghislaine Maxwell. Prince Andrew is facing the possibility of being deposed for 7 hours on video with possible embarrassing questions about his sex life and what he has told the Queen. Will Andrew either face Roberts in court, the sex abuse lawsuit, or will she settle? Or will he settle? A New York judge, Lewis Kaplan, of course, ruled the Queen's second son and favorite son can be tried over allegations he sexually assaulted Miss Roberts, with other people saying that the SDNY should bring forth criminal charges against the prince, something which I would like to see. I will be frank about that. Experts speculate that Andrew will want to reach an out-of-court settlement, potentially worth millions of pounds, multi-millions of pounds. Otherwise, the Duke of York would likely be deposed by Robert's lawyers. And among those is David Boies, Boies, Giuffre's 80-year-old New York-based attorney, who is seen by some as the greatest deposition taker in modern American justice, with the potentiality to quiz the royal for a grueling 7 hours, excluding breaks, under oath and under the threat of perjury if he lies. David Boies' lawyer services charges $2,000 an hour, or about 1,460 pounds. He is highly sought after. And he's acted in a raft of major cases, including the successful prosecution of Microsoft that saw the computing giant briefly split up. Andrew could avoid having to make a deposition by striking a settlement with Virginia. And if he decides not to, he cannot be forced to appear in New York to defend himself due to the case being a civil suit in a different legal jurisdiction and not a criminal one. Related, the Duke's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, and their daughters Beatrice and Eugenie are also likely to be deposed for questioning over Andrew's sex life and alibis. That would be fantastic. His disastrous BBC Newsnight interview means Miss Giuffre may even try to interview Prince Charles and perhaps even attempt the impossible and summon the Queen to give evidence about what her second son has told her, according to a lawyer who represented several of Epstein's victims. Her attorney, David Boies, said his team will seek to depose between 10 to 12 people and admitted this could include Fergie, Beatrice, and Eugenie. Florida litigator Spencer Cuven said it is without question the Duke will be asked about his private parts. Nothing is off limits, because if an underage girl can describe what the Duke of York's private parts look like, how could that be if they had not had a relationship? Andrew's medical records will also be requested to ascertain if he is telling the truth about claims he cannot sweat due to a rush of adrenaline while on a Royal Navy ship under attack in the 1982 Falklands War fought between Britain and Argentina. Mr. Cuven told the Mirror Andrew's disastrous BBC Newsnight interview will haunt him. He mentioned his wife as well as the daughters. They can now all legally be deposed. The lawyers could even try for the Queen, which I would guess they would try to do that. That's quite a notch on the belt for lawyers, deposing the frickin' Queen of England. I don't doubt they will, but as a sovereign, it will be almost impossible to do. Sovereign, in air quotes. And a New York judge has sensationally ruled the Queen's second son can be tried. This is what I hate about the Daily Mail. They just repeat themselves over and over. Experts believe that Andrew, who earned the nickname the Playboy Prince, will want to reach an out-of-court settlement, likely or potentially a multi-million pound. Otherwise, he's facing having his private life be put in the spotlight and a blockbuster trial in 9 months. Mr. Boyce said last night, Virginia is obviously very pleased with the court's decision. It does not resolve the case on the merits. It simply rejects certain legal defenses Prince Andrew was putting up to avoid a trial. Witnesses I mentioned could include Fergie and her daughters. Boyce further said she wants to achieve justice, but added while that she is determined to go to trial, settlement is always a possibility. 99%, 99 out of 100 civil cases settle out of court in the United States. And so this is going to be in, I think, Virginia's court largely, whether she wants to settle or bring this to court. I hope she brings it to court because it seems to me that she's likely going to get a payout anyways. So that being said, you might as well do great work for the greater good and the public by revealing this sort of information in court. Seeing the prince deposed and Fergie deposed and their daughters deposed would be fantastic. Again, he would face being interviewed by her lawyers in a videotaped deposition in London. Although the ninth in line of the throne cannot be forced to give evidence, as it's, again, not a criminal court and it's in a different legal jurisdiction. There are only bad options in front of him, and he has to decide which of these bad options is his best bad option. One Mitchell Epner told Sky News, with speculation that the Queen is bankrolling the prince's case. I would say that's pretty obvious. I mean, his money is her money, is the royal family's money, right? So it's kind of tit for tat. They're splitting hairs on who is cutting the bill. It's the royal families. And Andrew is using the sale of his $18 million Swiss chalet to try to pay off Roberts with at least $10 million of the proceeds, it was claimed today. That's a lot of money, a lot of money. For those that don't know, a chalet is basically a cabin or a cottage in the woods, often in the context of being in the mountains or in the rural area of Switzerland. So it's kind of a, well, it is. It's a wealthy person thing to have as a chalet. The Duke of York has been urged to settle out of court for the sake of his mother, who celebrates her platinum jubilee this year after his devastating defeat in court yesterday. So, platinum jubilee. Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, settled a £6.6 million debt with a French socialite. It was revealed this week, paving the way for him to sell his beloved ski chalet to fund his alleged sex abuse case. Isabel de Rouvre, I don't know how to say that, Rove, sold her house, the Chalet Halora, to Fergie and Andrew in 2014 for £18 million to be paid in installments. She claimed the Yorks failed to make the final installment of $5 million for the property in the exclusive ski resort of Verbier, or Verbier. But this week, the Yorks stumped up the cash, ending the legal battle and clearing the way for a sale. And that chalet is now on the market. A constitutional lawyer and expert in constitutional law, Mark Stevens, asserts that Andrew will need to find between £5 million and £10 million to offer Miss Giuffre and hope she spares them a trial. Judge Lewis Kaplan has thrown a reasoned judicial decision like a bomb into the middle and the heart of the royal family and threatens to provoke constitutional crisis as a consequence. Essentially, I think he's either going to have to engage in the trial process or he's going to have to settle, and that may well be his least worst option. There is a need to limit the damage. Andrew, I suspect, will be stripped of his royal titles, which has already happened. A settlement of $5 or $10 million is a good bet, but Miss Giuffre may want her day in court. As I said, the ball is in her half of the court. Pun intended there. And the settlement that Andrew tried to use as the argument, of course, was the 2009 $500,000 payout to Virginia Roberts from Jeffrey Epstein, with the agreement to release, acquit, satisfy, and forever discharge Epstein and any other person or entity who could have been included as a potential defendant, with Andrew Bretler arguing that the case should be dismissed because Andrew falls under that category, which, as we know, Lewis Kaplan denied, bringing this civil suit to the next step in the process. He could also agree to be interviewed and then plead the fifth and avoid incriminating himself. And as well, not many good options here for the prince. If he refused to play any further part in the case, however, he risks being in default, with the judge ruling against him in his absence, branding him a sex abuser and ordering to pay compensation. So in that sense, if you don't respond, you're assumed guilty, right? So he's probably not going to do that, but he would then spend the rest of his life being pursued by bailiffs. If he wanted to settle, Miss Roberts would have to agree. She has made it clear that as well as money, she would demand an apology and an admission of liability. So he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he does not in either case. So shout out to Virginia for holding the royal family's feet to the fire. Andrew could also file a motion of reconsideration to Judge Kaplan, asking him to reconsider his ruling. Or he could go straight to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, where it would be heard by a panel of judges. If they also reject his motion, he could ask a full Second Circuit to consider. Another option would be go straight to the Supreme Court, which would then decide whether or not it is even going to hear the case. He could also seek to have the case dismissed by arguing that it cannot be heard in a United States federal court because both he and Ms. Roberts are based abroad, with Virginia being based in Australia. Most American civil court cases end in financial settlement out of court before the case even reaches trial. That actually happened to me one time when a drunk college girl broke my laptop when she was trying to get my attention, and we settled out of court. She just bought me a new laptop, basically. She could have just said hello, and I would have talked to her, but she felt the need to break my laptop before dancing on my speaker. Anyways, that is another story. She could seek to extract an apology, as I mentioned, or an admission of wrongdoing. I don't see that happening, so I don't know. It's looking like this is going to go to court, people. So I think that's a good thing for everybody. What are the chances of the Duke seeking to settle? It's tough to say. He's effectively a dead man walking, says certain people. But dirty laundry, the Duke's private life could effectively put in the dock if a settlement is not reached. The Playboy Prince, aka Randy Andy, he's a loser. He's a little worm. As far as I can tell, he had very little athletic ability, if at all. He seems to have a very low IQ. Not much to see of value in this creature that is Prince Andrew. He's kind of just like a giant 70-year-old 4-year-old. It was very weird. I remember the first time I saw that interview, I thought he was just like the way he was behaving. It was like a little boy, but he was like a 60-year-old man, and it was really bizarre. You could tell he's never really been forced to accept responsibility for much, if anything, in his life. Could Meghan or Charles be asked to testify? Those can be enforced within America, and if someone refuses, a U.S. Marshal brings them in, but those outside of the U.S. could potentially ignore the request. So it's tough to say. Could he face a criminal suit if he loses the civil case? This is from defense attorney Julie Rendelman. I believe that Maxwell is the final piece in terms of criminal charges involving Epstein. I'm pretty confident prosecutors spent this time evaluating every piece of evidence to see if there's anything else. I think they realized the strongest case is Ghislaine, and that's what they went for. Let me remind you, if this was you, if this was me, if this was anybody else, they would be locking up you, your brother, your siblings, you and your mother, all your friends, anybody in your phone book would at least be talked to. At least. And with these people, very little of that at all. And we've covered before what the Duke story is: money and memory. Money and memory, that's what they go for usually in these sorts of cases. This is from the Daily Mail. Martin Robinson, chief reporter. So he actually did pretty decent there, I got to say. Not a bad article at all. Obviously, they repeated themselves, as they do, the mainstream, over and over again, repeating the same garbage. But I want to see him in court. I want to see all of those people get deposed, including the Queen. I think that would be fantastic. And just to define what a platinum jubilee is, it is a celebration held to mark an anniversary. Among monarchies, it usually refers to a 70th anniversary. So that is incoming for the Queen. And I want to share as well kind of an inside look of what it's like to. I'm sorry about this picture here, folks. It's just obnoxious, isn't it? Let me fix this because this is a really annoying, to say the least. But what is it like to be Ghislaine Maxwell's courtroom sketch artist? I think it's an interesting question to ask. But here is that, so you don't have to look at that stupid advertisement. Quote, I'm basically an alternative Canada. Camera. Camera. When Maxwell stepped into court for the first day of her trial, media were not allowed to catch it. However, court artist Elizabeth Williams was ready, and before time was running out, the scene of raising the curtain was sent to press around the world. Cameras are generally banned from federal court, and unlike the shameful movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, who was also brought up during the course of the trial, and also drawn by Williams, there were plenty of pictures going in and out of sexual abuse trials. Williams stressed that I'm not using an artistic license to run anything. In this court sketch you see here, Maxwell was locked by 4 U.S. Marshals from the court after a jury convicted a sex trafficking trial in New York on Wednesday, December 29th, 2021. Williams has been in the public eye in court since 1980, has been paying attention to the Associated Press since 2004, but during the coronavirus pandemic, the typical surge in court activity was slowed. Maxwell was the first complete trial Williams covered from the court itself during the pandemic era, coming shortly after R. Kelly's own sex trafficking trial in the federal court of Brooklyn. In that trial, the judge banned media from the courtroom, forcing Williams to attract R&B singers and witnessing a monitor in the overflow room. There she said everything was blurry and the judge's head was the size of a dime. I can relate. In contrast, in a federal court in Manhattan, Williams sat near Maxwell and heard her brother speak French. I hate it when writers make mistakes like that. Williams needed to hone his news judgment to keep track of the moments of an indelible image. And the sketch is just that. It never disappears. There's no room for an eraser in the whole huge bag of art supplies she brought to court. She uses brushes, pens, and a high-quality pastel, and estimates she will throw away half of the sketches she started with. During Maxwell's month-long trial, Williams created about 100 sketches of witness testimony, lawyer discussions, juries, judges, spectators, and Maxwell herself. Williams said, it's great to be able to draw a lot of trials, because the more you can draw someone, the better you're drawing them. It's pretty cool. I maintained a good persona. Jeffrey Epstein, in contrast, was capricious. Capricious means changing often and quickly in mood and behavior. Williams portrayed Epstein, who turned from Maxwell's ex-boyfriend to employer at a pre-suicide bail hearing in 2019. Williams likes the wall between, I think it's a woman, because they keep referring to this Williams as both a man and a woman, and I don't know why that is. Elizabeth Williams is her name, so it's a woman. Whoever this writer is, Donald Dozeman, you have made a lot of mistakes here, sir. I don't like getting along with the people I'm drawing. I'm watching them because they're news articles for me, and I want them to stay that way. Maxwell broke that division and gained attention by portraying the court artist herself. The meta sketches by Reuters artist Jane Rosenberg of Maxwell became even more talked about. So that's where Maxwell turned around and started sketching the sketch artists, kind of trying to take control of the situation. I think psychologically showing Maxwell's need for control, or at least to feel as if she's in control, right? According to Williams, Maxwell knew that artist well, but initially it wasn't clear what the defendant was doing on her paper. Williams stayed on her side of the watershed, sketching Maxwell at work, even after discovering that she was painting an artist, but it didn't bother him. I thought, okay, that's fine. I'll do what I want to do, but it won't affect what I do. Williams said Maxwell would sometimes intentionally pose. I don't find that as surprising at all. She was so aware, I think, of people watching her the whole time. She was always, I think, someone that was aware of how she was being perceived, just the way she was brought up and being a spy and such. Williams said, someone is looking at the camera right, or the artist is looking right. So it's much more appealing to anyone looking at the drawings to see someone looking at them correctly. I have this question from a jury trial. They wanted the defense testimony of these lawyers, and she was sitting around a chair, and sometimes did this left often, but she again did it. She started posing for us. I was like, okay, all right, if that's what she wants. And it was a photo of a day other than the fact that she was convicted. And I find this interesting, getting the take from the courtroom sketch artist. She talks about drawing the witnesses, 3 testifying in pseudonyms or using only the names Jane, Kate, and Carolyn. Court artists were instructed not to draw caricatures. This meant avoiding facial features for Williams. Williams looked elsewhere, often to capture emotional testimony. She said the hand was another key. Williams said Jane wasn't very lively while testifying about how Epstein grabbed her, but she used her hand that way. And I really practiced drawing a lot of hands. That is, you have to be able to draw hands, especially when you draw a witness who can't draw a face. You have to rely on your hands. Caroline's hands were particularly eye-catching. She had all these rings, very well-groomed nails, and very reddish hair. And I think when she points her hand to her face, money is shot there. I know more about her than her face. Court artists need to pay attention to big moments, even if the witness doesn't look like a headliner. FBI analyst testimony brought one of the stranger images from the trial, as the prosecutor displayed a photo found by an analyst who appears to be massaging Epstein's feet with his chest. Williams knew with her chest. Williams knew as her shot, she didn't have time to measure Maxwell's reaction. The photo was displayed for about 7 seconds, meaning she was drawing like the wind. And that was Kimberly Mader, who is just obnoxious as hell. This FBI analyst. I mean, she might as well have been a robot or a voice recording. Just hope she doesn't think she's morally superior to you or I because she works for the FBI, as if that makes you a good person. On the contrary, it means that you're part of a criminal organization, or at least one that partakes in criminality. Maxwell was always in contact with her lawyers, often engaging in daily exhibits of physical infection. What a hell hug fest. All these lawyers hug. I've never seen anything like that. Wow. That's very interesting. Williams said she noticed that Maxwell began to get a little excited as the trial progressed. I agree 100%. She definitely got more excited, more excitatory. The witness that I noticed it the most was Annie Farmer. I don't know why. I don't know why. I haven't really speculated why. It might have something to do with her sister, but she definitely seemed the most nervous when Annie was testifying, which I found strange because Annie probably had arguably the least, what would that be? Least damning testimony. But nonetheless, Maxwell seemed to be the most nervous when Annie was testifying. The courtroom artist Williams started her career as a trained fashion illustrator. So Maxwell, she said, is just above my alley. Whenever she entered court with 2 U.S. Marshals, she made an entrance as if she were walking on the runway. I swear to God. Her exit also left an impression, including her last one when she left the courtroom. When they took her out, it wasn't just going out with 2 Marshals after the verdict that she and the other 2 big names. Williams commented on the contrast. It was such a theme, and she was walking in front of them. It was great. It was great. It was like the finality of the whole, with Maxwell and the 2 strong male Marshals. Very poorly written article, but very interesting nonetheless. I think it's an interesting topic because I really only remember there was one day in particular that I was. It was just a few moments, but I was thinking about the sketch artist, and I was looking for her in the courtroom because I was like, the artist has to be there every single day. So I was like, it didn't take long. You just look in the pews and you try to figure out who's doing this, who's looking down and looking up, and they would do that constantly, like really quickly. So I find that really interesting about court is the role of the sketch artist and how they do their thing in court. I find it very interesting. So that being said, this went longer than I thought. That's the thing though, is this sort of content. The way I do it, I don't ramble or rant. I provide my analysis when I think it's warranted, but other than that, I try to stick to the facts and the intelligence. So stay frosty, folks. Before I let you go, I'm going to be on 2 shows today. Carmen Smith Studer and her daughter are having me on their show. It's called, I think it's called Let Me Ask My Mom. And then I'm going to be on another show this evening. I want to say it's around 9 p.m. 9 p.m. or so with Comrade Misty. And I will put that in the I'm going to put that in the live chat here. I tweeted it out, but I just love to get it out when I can. But again, that's not until this evening at 9 p.m. But nonetheless, I will share that. We're going to be talking about Assange, and the YouTube is Action for Assange. So let me share that. And then Carmen Smith Studer, who I think has worked in the entertainment industry. We're gonna get into it. But her podcast is called Let Me Ask My Mom with her daughter Carlisle. So as far as I know, they're gonna both be joining me later. But there in the chat is the tonight's broadcast about Assange on that's the Action for Assange channel. So check that out. Stay frosty. Support if you can. Buy me a tea if you would like. I like Celsius tea. So if you want to, pitch in $2 or so, feel free to do that. Okay, folks. We'll see everybody later tonight.